Cheesecake, thank you so much for having me here with all this amazing cheesecake in front of us.
Welcome to our restaurant. I'm so glad you could come.
Me too. So today we're getting 5 tips for making better cheesecake because
You're getting 5 tips for making the best cheesecake.
For making the best cheesecake. So where do we begin? I mean, it starts with the ingredients, I'm
Obviously,
assuming.
New York style cheesecake has always been known as heavy, dense, rich. You know, some people use sour cream, cottage cheese, none of that in our cheesecake. Cream cheese, fresh eggs, sugar, heavy cream, touch of vanilla.
That's it.
That's it.
And then how about the cream cheese, you know, the type of cream cheese, the types of eggs, does that matter?
Well, yes, of course it matters. The cream cheese matters. We use Philadelphia cream cheese, which originally 100 years ago was Breakstone's cream cheese, but you know, it all became the same formula. Yeah. And we used to get it in little 3-pound bars, and now we get it in 50-pound bars.
Wow.
But you know, the cream cheese is very, very important.
Let's talk about mixing. What's the important tips and tricks for mixing?
Well, we don't want to over-mix the ingredients, so we use a paddle attachment, and we don't run it on very fast speed. We incorporate the ingredients very slowly, and we add the heavy cream a little at a time, and we add the eggs a little bit at a time, and we don't want to over-mix it.
So you don't want to dump it all in?
No, you don't just dump it all in. There's a process to it. And we don't want to incorporate a lot of air into it because New York style cheesecake is very rich and dense and not airy and light. If you wanted to make an airy and light cheesecake, you could use a whip and whip it up and it would be airy and light.
But it would be a different thing.
It would be a different thing.
And then let's talk about baking it, you know, and getting your oven at the right temperature, the right length of time. What do you suggest?
Well, what we do is we bake, if you're using a springform pan at home, we don't use those, but if you would have to wrap the bottom in foil and put it on a baking sheet and add about this much water. So we bake all our cheesecakes in a water bath. And it sounds funny, but every pan going around the oven has water going up the sides. And what that does is a couple of things. It prevents the cheesecake from burning on the bottom while it's baking because it's so thick and dense and rich, as we said before. It also adds moisture to the oven, which keeps your cheesecake moist. So you're going to bake your cheesecake for, depending on the size, from 45 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes at about 400 degrees. Our ovens are all, different than a home oven. They have solid shelves that really retain heat and give us that golden brown color on our cheesecakes. Some people like cheesecakes that are milky white. Not us. We want it to look like what it is, which is homemade and well baked. Once you bake it, it's very important because a lot of people always say, "Oh, my cheesecake always cracks."
Right.
So you don't want cracks in your cheesecake. So after you bake it, you don't want to move it. You can take it out of the oven and just put it on a shelf and let it cool. Because cheesecake is like a souffle. It rises about this much out of the pan, right? And then when it cools, it'll settle back down into the pan.
Yeah.
And then we let it cool in the pan. Then we just turn it over to get it out. We shake it out once it's totally set.
Right. So then it won't crack once it's cool.
It won't crack, cool and set.
Yeah. Right. And how long does that usually take before you turn it over?
Several hours.
Yeah.
3-4 hours.
If you want a cheesecake for dinner, you gotta make it in the morning.
Yes, it's not a 5-minute process for sure. We blend our ingredients for 45 minutes very slowly.
Wow.
Our bake time is over an hour, so it's between the mixing and the baking, it's a 2-hour process just for us, and we do it all the time. It is a lot of love.
Ingredients in the cheesecake, because you obviously have classic cheesecake and then sometimes you can incorporate other things. What works and what doesn't?
Well, for us, because we're purists, fresh fruit always works. Some people believe that cheesecake should just be eaten plain. I'm a purist, so I like our New York style original cheesecake. Yeah. But fresh strawberries are very popular, blueberry, cherry, pineapple, and then we have some more decadent stuff like chocolate mousse cheesecake, and then we have cakes that are layered, cheesecakes within layer cakes like carrot cake cheesecake, devil's food cheesecake, red velvet layer cake cheesecake, and then we have chocolate swirl.
Alternating it as opposed to baking it in.
No, we actually bake the cheesecake separately, and then when we set up the layer cakes, we put that cheesecake in the middle of the layer cake.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's a little decadent.
When you're adding ingredients to the basic cheesecake mix, can things go wrong? I mean, you obviously
Yes.
continue to not want to overmix.
Things can go wrong when when you're blending. Yes, if you add, like, there are different times of the year where the humidity is different. You can't add as much heavy cream.
Right.
So we feel that out. So it's not like every time it's exactly the same. We actually look at the mix and see what we're doing.
Yeah.
As far as incorporating ingredients and flavors, we were talking earlier, we don't think you should cover up your cheesecake with some sort of candy bar or other stuff like that. You want to keep it sort of pure, so if you're proud of your cheesecake heritage as we are.
Should taste like a cheesecake.
It should taste like a cheesecake. Exactly right.
Right. I'm going to say cheers. Can we cheers our cheesecake?
100%. I wouldn't be the first. Cheers.
Thank you so
Enjoy.
much.
Thanks for coming.